Hey everyone, it's Beth from Adaptive Knitter. Thanks again for joining me for another Ask Me Anything. Today's question comes from my friends over at Knit Collage. Thank you, Amy. But I've gotten this question 1,000 times over the years as I traveled the country, going from yarn show to yarn show and selling from my old company, Twisted Fiber Art. Twisted Fiber Art doesn't exist anymore, but just heads up, sneak peek, my bestie Meg has a new company. It's called fairygodmotherdyeworks.com. So go check her out. It's brand spanking new, just opened the site like 2 weeks ago. So go check her out. Anyhow, I first started in the industry about 10 years ago when my bestie Meg needed a business manager. She needed somebody to come in and help transition her business and move it forward, grow the company, grow the website, attend more shows and get some more customers. So that is what I did. I joined the company, and after about a week, give or take, of learning the ropes, she literally came to my desk with a big handful of yarn and like 3 different needles in 3 different sizes and just shoved it right into my face and said, "You're gonna work here, you're gonna learn to knit, or you're gonna learn to crochet. You can't work at a yarn company and not understand one of those things." I was a little put off by that. I'm not gonna lie. I had never thought of myself as a knitter. I never considered myself a knitter in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I used to play a game because a lot of my friends were knitters. We would be able to say, she's a knitter, he's a knitter, not a knitter, not a knitter. He's a knitter, she's a knitter, not a knitter, not a knitter. And we could kind of pick people out in a crowd. Of course, you can't do that. It was just a fun game. Anyway, so I took the yarn home and I went on YouTube, and I just was kerfuffled. I could not figure it out for the life of me. About a week later, my sister came on over and she spent the weekend. And in that weekend, she cast on for me and we knit probably about 3 inches of a scarf. And it was lumpy and it had holes in it and it had drop stitches. But I was so proud of that 3 inches. She went home and I picked up the needles and I immediately forgot everything that she had just taught me. Enter YouTube. She had taught me enough that once I got onto YouTube and watched a number of videos, I was able to really understand the construction of the stitch. I really looked to see how the loops were formed, how they're pulled through, what is a stitch, how does it function, how are these loops all connected and woven together to make a fabric. And once I understood that, then I was able to think about the stitch and how it worked and how the needles would fit in my very different hands. What I see when I watch a video, or I watch my sister, or I watched my meme, that's my grandmother, or I watched my Aunt MJ, when I watched people who I knew knit, didn't make, my hands wouldn't make the same motions. So what I did after I deconstructed the stitch was I thought about my hands and I put the needles in them and I just sat with them and thought about, how does this feel? How does this work? I picked up a pencil and I started to write my name with my smaller hand and think about how I was able to hold enough tension on the needle in order to write my name, where I had to balance, how I had to prop things, all of that kind of stuff. So that was an important step. And once I was able to identify what felt great, what felt comfortable, and what was useful, what made the right stitches, how I was able to hold the yarn with tension, hold the needles in my hand, and create those stitches, I was off to the races. After that, YouTube was my best friend. YouTube taught me to purl, it taught me yarn overs, it taught me SSKs, decreases, increases, all the lace work, and I was just off. I considered myself an adventurous beginner for about the first 3 years of my knitting life. And after that, I decided whatever you have to throw at me, I can probably handle. I just gotta do a little research ahead. So That's how I learned to knit. My sister, my bestie, and YouTube. I do have a side story for you. When I was about maybe 11 or 12 years old, I was at my meme's house, my meme and Pepe's house, my grandparents' house, and we had all our cousins were there. Maybe not all, but many cousins were there, aunts and uncles. It was a weekend. Kids were outside. There was a sprinkler going. There were popsicles. And Meme said, come sit next to me and I'll teach you how to knit. And I thought, really? They've got popsicles and I'm sitting in here? I was polite. I sat nicely. I listened. I held things and I said, thank you. And then I left and promptly went out into the sprinklers and got my popsicle, and I was a happy camper. One of the biggest regrets I have is not taking the time and wishing that maybe she had chosen a better moment to sit with me so that I could say that my story is that I learned from my meme. I'm always a little bit jealous of people who learned from their grandmother so that they have that connection. A little bit jealous of that. However, I think about her every single time I knit, every single time. So take with that what you will. Everybody can knit, no matter who you are. If you can make tension with string, then you can knit. That is my philosophy. I will do a video in the next couple days just of my hands knitting so you can see how I hold my needles and how I make tension with string. All right, I love everyone. Bye.